Welcome, everyone, to vpod.ai. I'm your host, Mike, and joining me today is our expert guest, Susan.
Hi, everyone. I am so glad to be here for this conversation.
You can sponsor this podcast for just $25. Your message will be featured across major platforms like Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and more. If you're interested, visit vpod.ai to get started today.
That is honestly such a great opportunity.
It really is. So I want to jump right in today because we are exploring something pretty intense. Have you ever noticed that the people who are, the most reliable, the ones who literally never complain, are usually the ones standing closest to a complete psychological breakdown?
Oh, absolutely. It is always the people who just constantly show up to help everyone else.
Right. And today we are looking directly at what you should do when life just unapologetically overwhelms you.
Yeah.
I'm talking about those periods where it feels like, the universe is actively working against you.
You know, those weeks where everything goes wrong at once.
Exactly. Like your car breaks down and then the washing machine completely floods the laundry room on the exact same day.
And the kids are having meltdowns and your boss is emailing you at midnight.
Yes. Or, even the much heavier stuff, right? Like profound grief, a shattered marriage, or getting a life-changing medical diagnosis.
It is that terrifying sensation of your baseline capacity being entirely breached.
Yeah.
Human beings are remarkably resilient. We all have this built-in shock absorption system for the day-to-day bumps.
Like getting a flat tire.
Exactly. A flat tire is annoying, but your nervous system can handle it. What we were examining today is what physically and psychologically happens when that shock absorption system bottoms out.
When there's just nothing left.
Right. When the stressors pile up so fast and so high that your brain's threat detection center, the amygdala, gets locked in the on position, it just starts flooding you with cortisol and fear.
And the physical feeling of that is identical to treading water in the middle of the ocean.
Oh, that is the perfect analogy.
You are out there trying to swim against this massive current. Your muscles are cramping, you are gasping for air, and you are putting every ounce of energy into just keeping your nose above the surface.
Just surviving.
Right. And then, out of nowhere, a massive rogue wave hits you. A true crisis.
And in that moment, when you have already been trying harder and harder just to survive, the default human reaction is to snap.
Yeah, you withdraw into your phone, or you lean into whatever destructive coping mechanism numbs the pain, or you simply hit that dark, terrifying wall and think, I cannot keep doing this.
And that specific thought, that I cannot keep doing this moment, is a really fascinating psychological pivot point because, well, it is completely true. You literally cannot keep doing what you are doing.
Which brings us to this radical reframe that we came across for this exploration.
Yes. There is a quote we found from a fictional psychiatrist named Ibrahim. He is a character from the book The Thursday Murder Club.
I love that book.
It is great. But he states, very plainly, never waste a good crisis.
Okay, let me just pause you there.
Yeah.
Because if you are listening to this on your commute right now and your bank account is overdrawn and you are exhausted, hearing a crisis called a gift or a good opportunity probably makes you want to throw your phone right out the window.
I completely understand that reaction.
Because it borders on toxic positivity, doesn't it? To look at someone facing genuine grief or trauma and offer them a cheerful congratulations on their great opportunity to grow.
Which is an incredibly valid point. We have to draw a hard line here between actual psychological growth and toxic positivity, because bypassing the pain is a disaster for your mental health.
So what is the first step then?
The absolute first step of any crisis is allowing yourself the physical time and space to just sit with the grief, the anger, and the sadness.
You have to let it happen.
Yes. If your world is falling apart, your nervous system actually needs to process that reality. The tears and the anger are biologically necessary.
Right, you can't just skip the sad part.
Exactly. But, and this is the crucial distinction, when you are eventually ready, that crisis serves as a flare going up. It is your body and mind signaling that your old way of treading water has failed.
Because you've maxed out your current coping skills.
Precisely. They are no longer sufficient. A crisis forces a level up because you simply cannot afford to stay the same anymore.
You can't change the size of the rough ocean around you, but the crisis forces you to build a better boat.
I love that. Build a better boat.
Actually, let's take that metaphor a step further. Building a better boat doesn't just mean adding a thicker hull. It means finally installing a bilge pump.
Oh, that is good, because water is always going to get in.
Exactly. Stress is always going to happen. The old coping mechanism was just ignoring the water until the boat sank. But the new mechanism, the level up, is installing a pump that actively processes the water back out so you stay buoyant.
That evolution of the metaphor is brilliant. The bilge pump is the active processing of stress rather than the passive accumulation of it.
So the core mission of our session today is a three-step framework to actually build that pump, to build that better boat, even when your hands are shaking and you feel like you are drowning.
Right. And step one is the reframe we just discussed, viewing the breakdown of your old coping mechanisms as a forced opportunity to evolve.
Okay, what is step two?
Step two is getting relentlessly curious. Instead of asking, why is the universe doing this to me? You ask, what specific skills, resources, or boundaries am I lacking right now?
And then step three.
Step three is getting support, doing the terrifying work of asking for help to try something fundamentally different.
Okay, let's look at what this actually looks like in practice, because abstract frameworks usually fall apart if they don't survive contact with reality.
They do. They have to be applicable.
Yeah, so there's a story we looked at about a woman we will call Kay. Kay is a single mom of two girls, recently divorced from a highly abusive husband.
A very heavy situation.
Very. She is managing a demanding, high-stakes career. And, playing into that stereotype of the hyper-competent person I mentioned earlier, she was the stalwart support for her entire extended family.
She was the absolute rock.
Exactly. If anyone had a problem, they called Kay. She was doing everything in her power to be the superhuman mom, the perfect employee, and the savior for her relatives.
And we have to recognize that that level of hyper-independence is often a trauma response masquerading as a superpower.
Wait, really? A trauma response?
Yes. When you've been in an abusive situation, controlling everything and needing no one feels like the only way to stay safe, but it requires a phenomenal amount of daily energy.
Right. And then the rogue wave hits. A close family member tragically dies by suicide.
And no one knew he was struggling.
No one. In the aftermath, the entire extended family immediately leans their full weight onto Kay for support. The demands skyrocket. The grief is unimaginable.
And Kay's physical body literally starts shutting down under the immense weight of holding everyone else's world together while hers is completely shattering.
So if we run Kay's situation through the framework, what does that look like?
Well, her breakdown makes complete physiological sense. Her old coping skill, doing everything herself, absorbing everyone's pain, never showing weakness, that was her way of treading water.
But the ocean just turned into a Category 5 hurricane.
Exactly. That old skill will drown her now. So she moves to step two, getting curious. What does she lack?
And what did she figure out?
She realizes she lacks the ability to calm her own body. So she learns grounding skills.
Which, to be clear for everyone listening, grounding skills aren't just some wellness buzzword. These are actual physiological hacks, right?
Precisely. When you are in profound grief or panic, your amygdala has hijacked your brain. You are in fight, flight, or freeze.
So how do you hack that?
Grounding skills like the 5-4-3-2-1 sensory technique or specific deep breathing cadences, they force the brain to engage the prefrontal cortex, which is the logical part of the brain. Yeah, it literally lowers your heart rate and signals to your vagus nerve that you are not in immediate physical danger. It pumps the brakes on the cortisol.
So Kay practiced that.
She did. She also practiced radical self-compassion, which basically looked like dropping the perfect mom routine.
What did that look like for her?
Well, she let her kids watch significantly more television for a few weeks so she could have an hour of silence to just sit on the floor and process her grief.
That is so real. I love that. But it's the third step, getting support, where Kay's story gets incredibly profound.
Yes, it really does.
Because for someone whose entire identity is built on being the helper, becoming the one who actually asks for help goes against every instinct she possesses.
It is terrifying for her.
Totally. And there's this phenomenal metaphor we found regarding a news story from a beach in Florida.
Oh, the riptide story.
Yeah. 9 people were caught in a riptide, being violently pulled out to sea. They were exhausted, swallowing water, and absolutely could not save themselves.
And people on the beach noticed.
Right, strangers noticed. But they didn't just toss a life preserver. They physically waded into the crashing waves, grabbed onto each other, and formed a human chain.
Which is incredible.
It started with just a few people and grew to 80 strangers, linking arms to pull those 9 individuals out of the current and back to the sand.
The physical mechanics of that Florida story parallels psychological survival perfectly.
How so?
Well, Kay realized she was in a riptide of grief and she couldn't swim out, so she built a psychological human chain.
They're doing what?
She did the scariest thing a hyper-independent person can do. She went to her extended family, the very people who usually relied on her, and said, I am not okay. I am drowning. I need you to hold me up.
The vulnerability required to shatter your own facade like that is just staggering.
It is staggering, but look at the systemic impact it had. By refusing to just swim harder in silence, Kay didn't just save herself. She inadvertently created a completely new normal within her family.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, by admitting she was broken, she gave everyone else in that family permission to stop pretending that they were fine.
Wow.
In the wake of a family member's suicide, creating an environment where people openly discuss their emotional pain without judgment is arguably the most effective form of suicide prevention that exists. She provided a blueprint for her family to survive.
It is incredible, but it hinges entirely on being willing to ask for the human chain, which brings up a very dark alternative.
What happens to the people who flat out refuse to ask?
Exactly. The tough ones. The people who think enduring in silence is some kind of virtue.
The danger of enduring is that the body keeps the score. Enduring without processing isn't resilience, it is a ticking time bomb.
This leads us to Kurt. Kurt is a first responder and a YouTuber who makes these wonderfully lighthearted videos metal detecting with his friends in Scotland.
He seems like a guy who just has everything figured out.
He really does. But behind the camera, Kurt was carrying a decade's worth of horror. As a first responder, he worked with minimal manpower, dealing with horrific trauma on a daily basis. He was regularly attending line-of-duty funerals for his colleagues.
And Kurt used a brutal analogy to describe his coping mechanism. He called it his internal trash can.
That is such a vivid image.
It is. Every time he witnessed a tragedy, every time a colleague died, he would take that trauma, shove it into his mental trash can, and just smash it down to make room for the next day's trauma.
Just shoving it down.
He did this for 10 years, smash it down, make more room, smash it down, go back to work.
It sounds like playing a game of emotional Tetris. Like the blocks are falling faster and faster, you are desperately trying to clear the lines, but eventually the pieces pile up to the top of the screen, and the game just abruptly ends.
That is a perfect way to visualize it, because the trash can inevitably overflowed. You cannot indefinitely suppress that level of cortisol and adrenaline.
So what happened to him?
Kurt fell into a profound, paralyzing depression. He was completely emotionally numb, incapable of feeling joy or connection.
And how did he try to fix it?
His solution was just to move full throttle, keep insanely busy, drink the beer, eat the cake, and project an image of a guy who is completely unfazed.
I really want to pause on this because, honestly, society actively creates people like Kurt.
Yeah, completely.
We praise people who act like human trash cans. We love the stoic friend, the employee who never complains about working 80-hour weeks, the person who smiles through tragedy.
Because it makes things easy for us.
Exactly. We reward their emotional suppression because it makes our own lives immensely easier. We don't have to worry about them.
Yeah.
But really, we are just standing on the shore giving them a round of applause while they quietly drown in the riptide.
We completely mislabeled trauma responses as strong character traits. Hyperindependence and stoicism are often survival tactics. They are not healthy baselines.
And Kurt was an absolute master at giving help, but his capacity to receive help was basically non-existent.
Right. And that imbalance destroys the nervous system. The turning point for Kurt, the moment before he fell completely into what he called a bottomless pit, was finally realizing the Tetris screen was full.
So how did he clear the screen?
He had to do something radically, terrifyingly different. He stepped completely away from his life and checked himself into a wellness center specifically designed for first responders.
Wow, that is a huge step.
For the first time in his life, he allowed himself to be the one on the stretcher. He cut off contact with the outside world and learned how to receive care.
And did it work?
Well, months later, he shared an update. He wasn't miraculously cured. A decade of compounded trauma doesn't just vanish in a few weeks.
Of course not.
But he noted that he was sleeping better. He was moving in the correct direction. He proved to himself that trying something fundamentally uncomfortable and new is infinitely better than moving full throttle and praying your depression magically evaporates.
He finally let someone help him empty the trash can instead of just smashing it down further. Now, Kurt's situation is extreme. It is life and death trauma. If you are listening right now, you might be thinking, look, I'm not a first responder. I don't have severe PTSD. I'm just incredibly deeply tired.
And that is so common.
So we have to look at how this framework applies to the mundane, everyday grind. Because you don't need a front-page tragedy to drown.
Absolutely not. The slow accumulation of everyday stress can be just as lethal to your well-being.
So let's talk about the final example we looked at.
Right. We looked at a scenario involving a working parent just last November. This wasn't a sudden crisis. It was the classic modern burnout death by 1,000 cuts.
Just everyday exhaustion.
Exactly. She was trying to keep a business afloat, maintain a marriage, and manage a child who was really struggling behaviorally. On top of that, she and her husband were fundamentally clashing on how to parent that child.
And add in the biological reality of perimenopause, which throws your hormones into chaos and drastically lowers your physical tolerance for stress.
Plus a potential ADHD diagnosis.
Right, meaning her executive function was already maxed out. She's trying to run a marathon in waist-deep mud while carrying a backpack full of rocks.
20 years ago, her default mechanism would have been to collapse into bed and let the resentment build.
But she applied the framework instead.
Yes. She viewed the burnout as a signal that her old way of succeeding had expired. She moved to step 2, getting curious.
And what did she ask herself?
She asked a question that requires a massive amount of self-awareness. She asked, what am I actively doing to make this situation harder?
Oof. That is a brutal question to ask yourself when you are already exhausted. It is so much easier to just blame your spouse, your boss, or the economy.
It is easier, but blame doesn't build a better boat. By looking at her own behavior, she realized her primary coping mechanism was overfunctioning.
What does that mean exactly?
She is rushing in to fix everyone else's problems before they even asked. She was overprotecting her child from natural consequences.
Ah, I see.
Overfunctioning is basically an anxiety response. You try to control the environment so you don't have to feel the anxiety of uncertainty.
So she recognizes the problem. But the messy reality of step 3, getting support and trying new things, is where the paradox of this whole framework really reveals itself.
How so?
Because when you are drowning, the idea of having a hard, emotionally draining conversation with your husband, or researching and booking doctors to address your physical health, or restructuring your entire business model.
Oh, it's exhausting.
Right. It requires significantly more energy up front than just staying miserable. Setting a boundary is exhausting.
It requires a massive initial surge of activation energy. Neuroplasticity tells us that our old habits like overfunctioning or suppressing emotions are essentially paved superhighways in our brain.
The brain likes the easy route.
Exactly. The brain loves them because they are efficient, even if they make us miserable. Trying a new coping skill is like taking a machete and trying to hack a brand new path through a dense jungle. It is exhausting, uncomfortable, and you will get scratched up.
Which is exactly what happened to her. She and her husband forced themselves to have the ugly, uncomfortable conversations they had been avoiding.
She actively sought medical interventions, too.
Yep. And she practiced the terrifying art of letting other people fail and be responsible for their own messes. She set rigid professional boundaries, literally cutting her workload in half for the upcoming year of 2026.
She even committed to a daily meditation practice.
And here is the most brilliant, realistic part of her story. After making all these massive, terrifying changes, everything was not instantly fixed.
It never is.
Right. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. They are still a massive work in progress. Some of the new doctors were helpful, some were not. Some boundaries worked. Some caused immediate friction.
But she hit on a profound realization. She realized it is infinitely better to be failing in new ways than to keep making the exact same mistakes over and over again.
Failing in new ways. I want to put that on a t-shirt.
It's such a great phrase.
It really is. It completely removes the paralyzing pressure of needing to find the perfect solution. You don't have to fix everything. You just have to gather new data.
Exactly. If you keep failing in the exact same way, smashing down the trash can like Kurt, or trying to be superhuman like Kay, you guarantee your own eventual collapse.
But if you fail in new ways, you are actively learning. You're building that bilge pump. You might install it backward the first time, but at least you're working on the boat instead of just treading water.
Every single time you attempt a new skill, whether it is taking 5 deep breaths, booking a therapy appointment, or simply looking at a family member and saying, I can't help you today, you are expanding your capacity.
The rough waters of the ocean are not going to magically calm down.
No, the economy, the kids, the job, the stress will always be there, but your ability to navigate those waters without capsizing grows significantly.
So let's synthesize all of this for everyone listening. We have covered the anatomy of an overwhelming crisis, from the physiological flood of the amygdala to the societal pressure to suffer in silence.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. But the core truth here is that when the giant wave hits, you have a choice. You can keep treading water using your exhausted, expired methods until you sink. You can stuff the trauma into an internal trash can until you go numb. Or you can choose to build a better boat.
You can use curiosity to diagnose your missing skills, and you can reach out your hand to form a human chain.
Exactly.
And as you attempt to do this, the foundation must be self-compassion. It is biologically and psychologically unnatural to let go of the coping mechanisms that kept you alive yesterday.
It really is.
It requires profound bravery to try something new. So treat yourself with kindness when you inevitably stumble. As you slowly invite these new resources into your life, you will find your footing.
You don't have to drown quietly just because you were really good at it.
Huh.
I want to leave you with a final lingering thought to ponder as you navigate whatever rough waters you are facing today.
What is it?
Think about the absolute biggest source of overwhelming stress in your life right now. The problem that is keeping you awake at 2 a.m. What if that stress isn't a sign that you're failing, but a clear, unavoidable signal that your old way of succeeding has simply expired?